Yep, I think we're good to go.
Okay, great. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the globe. My name is Michael Reeves. I'm the technical director here at Bitdefender. And it's my privilege today to talk to you about the cybersecurity industry today, and specifically the things that you're going to need to do or think about in your own security architecture that will help you to defend your environment, your customers' environments against attack. And we'll talk about 3 different areas that whether you are a small, medium business or you're managing environments on behalf of those small, medium businesses, or you're a very large Fortune 50 company. Basically, when we deal with asset-based security, you need to do 3 things. So we're going to talk a little bit about those, and then we'll show you how Bitdefender applies in those 3 areas of your architecture. So as we get started, I want to talk a little bit about Bitdefender, because as I travel throughout the globe, one of the things that I notice is that not a lot of people really know about Bitdefender, and there's some good reasons for this. Bitdefender is basically an engineering-driven company. So over half of our employees are engineers by trade. So think of us as a company of engineers. We've been doing machine learning and AI since about 2008. So we were a very early adopter of those types of technologies. And built into our platform, we have a tremendous footprint across the globe. So think of Bitdefender as a machine learning AI company of engineers. And we get a lot of telemetry coming into our platform. And one of the things that you'll notice about Bitdefender is that we do a lot with our engineers. One of them, if you're looking on your screen, we do a lot of decryption of ransomware or deconstructing of ransomware. And then we publish those ransomware decryptors on our website free of charge. So when we do some investigation regarding modern day threats, we deconstruct those threats, and then we publish out what our learnings are. We also do something that a lot of people don't realize is we help law enforcement globally to combat cybercrime. So we have, with different law enforcement agencies globally, we have saved companies billions of dollars, and that figure is correct. When you talk about our ransomware decryptors, allowing companies to decrypt their own environment so they don't have to pay the fees to criminals, that total starts to range in the billions of dollars. We've got about 280 or 300 cybersecurity researchers, threat hunters, security analysts. These are not product people. They are threat hunters. They are folks that work with law enforcement agencies globally. It's something that we are very proud of. And these are really hardcore threat hunters that is their only job, is to combat and research cyber threats throughout the world. And then you've got about 400 of our engineers that are focused upon new technologies. So think about cloud, think about IoT, think about machine learning and AI, and we have hundreds of patents regarding our technology. So let's get into
Mike. Before we jump to the next slide, can we change the view a little bit so we can get just the main slides? We're seeing a little bit of your notes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No worries.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Nate. No, that's perfect. How's that? Is that better?
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nate. I appreciate that. I've got so many screens, so thank you. All right, so let's talk about endpoint security. And when I talk about endpoint security, this is whether your endpoint is a laptop, desktop, VDI image, virtual server, physical server, whether it's a mobile device, it doesn't matter, but an asset or an endpoint to Bitdefender is any device that has corporate data on it. And if you have those types of devices, and every company does, there are basically three aspects of your architecture that you want to look at when it comes to asset-based security. Okay, we're not talking network security, but we're talking asset-based security. Data that you want to protect, you've got to do three things in your architecture. The first one is what I call the prevention layer of security. This is your automated security controls. So think about this as you have detection capabilities across various threat vectors, whether that threat is coming over the network, whether that is in process, whether that is in memory, whether that's an application, a script, some object is executing. You have to have detection capabilities as well as the ability to automatically protect your device against attack. And we call that the prevention layer of security. And if you're really good at this, in other words, you are you have high efficacy, you have the ability to block 99.99999% of the threats in just this layer of your security. So the ability to automatically detect and automatically defend your environment against that attack is what we call the prevention layer. And what you want in this particular layer is high efficacy. In other words, be able to detect and block across multiple threat vectors and do it in an automated way. Why is that so important? Because number one, it's the quickest way to defend your environment. In other words, time is of the essence, okay? And the ability to automatically detect it and block it is the quickest time to value in your security architecture. So that is really critical. Now, anything that bypasses this layer, so your automated prevention layer has failed, then you need to add what we call the detection and response layer. So think of this as where the humans live in the security architecture. So this is people resources that are intervening in the situation because your automated security controls have failed. Okay, so now you need a human to do something. You need a human to block this threat in various ways. So they may need to kill a process, or they need to isolate a host on the network, or they need to roll back, or they need to do something to mitigate that threat and recover from that threat because your automated security controls have been bypassed. So what do humans need? And this is really critical to understand. First of all, they need visibility. And I would argue they need correlated visibility in their environment across endpoints, across identity, across communication mechanisms like email. They need to be able to see what's going on in the network. They need to be able to visualize the threat so that very quickly they can determine whether a threat is malicious, in other words, has harmful intent, or that threat is benign. So in other words, we call that a false positive. So they need to be able to see something to be able to determine whether something is malicious or benign. And then the second thing they need to be able to do is take action regarding that threat. If it's benign, then they need to be able to whitelist something or exclude it from detection so that the next time it happens, you don't get a false positive. Or if it's malicious, they need to be able to take an action to be able to stop that threat. Again, they need to stop a process. They need to isolate a host on a network. They need to take some action to defend the environment. So that's also really critical. Now, here's the interesting thing that I've noticed being in this particular market. And it separates the small, medium business MSP space from, let's say, early in my career, I worked in the Fortune 50. The biggest difference between the security architectures in the small, medium business and the Fortune 50 is this third area of security. And to be honest with you, as I travel across the globe, we just don't do a good job of this part of the architecture. And that is what I label as security hardening. So the ability to analyze the risk in your customer environment and then be able to attest to the various risks and then be able to systematically reduce the risk in your environment is critical when it comes to security. And I'll give you a great analogy that I give all over the globe, and it just makes sense. So if you have a vehicle, let's say a car, and you take your car to the store, or you take your car to the mall or to a sporting event, the first thing you do when you get out of your vehicle and you go into the store is what? You are always closing your doors, making sure the windows are rolled up, and you lock your doors. What are you doing to your car before you leave it? You are hardening your car against attack. Our market, by and large, is, if you can picture this in your mind, if you're a cyber criminal on the internet, most businesses, in fact, I would argue 99.9% of the businesses out there, if you're a criminal, you're looking at a parking lot full of cars, and all of their car doors and windows are all open and rolled down. None of the cars are locked. So it's very easy for you as a cyber criminal to just walk along the parking lot, get into a vehicle. Now, they may have car alarms. And in this particular analogy, the car alarm is the prevention layer. That's the detection and response automatically. So you may have car alarms going off, but how quick is it for a criminal to just walk into a car, take stuff out of the car and leave? And sure, the alarm is blaring, but they've already left with what they want out of your car. Same thing is true with detection and response. Detection and response in this analogy is basically the police showing up or you running out to your car trying to defend your own car against that threat. So I want you to think about security in these three different areas, because if you do all three of these well, you can defend your environment regardless of the product that you use to fulfill each of these areas, okay? So these are the three critical architectural areas that you want to think about when you harden and when you prevent threats and when you detect and respond. You got to do all three nowadays because cyber criminals have just become automated. It's very easy to get into environments, and you want to be able to defend your environments against attacks. So these are the three critical areas that I'm going to dive in and show you exactly how Bitdefender addresses all three of these areas. We're one of the few products on the market that do all three of these pieces of the architecture really well. So let me show you how we do that. All right, let's talk about hardening. Because hardening, think of hardening as the foundation of your security architecture. And most products, I would say probably 95% of the security products out there in the market today do not do this, okay? So let's talk about what Bitdefender does and why this is important. So when you talk about hardening and when you talk about analyzing the risk in your customer's environment, the first easiest way into your customer environment is email. Everybody knows that. The second way into your environment, if you cover the email piece really well, is system misconfiguration. Did you know that every Windows environment today has an anonymous guest account associated and built into Windows? So what this means is there is a valid account in your customer's environment that does not have a password associated with it. When you look at ransomware breaches, there are two threat vectors that they use to get ransomware into your customer's environment. Number one, email. Number two, the anonymous guest account. Okay? So that is the easiest way. So we spend so much time with our users creating very complicated passwords. We have two-factor authentication that we put on our users. And yet, criminals know that they can get into your environment with a legitimate account. So it bypasses all of your security, your network security controls, as well as your identity security controls, because it's a valid account that has no password. Okay? And it's built into every Windows machine. So that is a system misconfiguration. The second way, you've got vulnerable applications, and then you've got users that introduce risk in your environment. So what Bitdefender does, we have a technology that's built into our core agent that analyzes these risks, shows them to you, and for most of those risks, we'll tell you how to remediate those risks, whether it's changing a group policy to eliminate that anonymous guest account, or you need to patch this particular configuration. Again, Bitdefender calls this endpoint risk analytics. If you're using Bitdefender today, it's built into the product. It's part of the policy. It's down at the bottom. You tick the box, you turn it on, and we look at 1,800 different areas of risk in your customers' environments across system misconfigurations, vulnerable applications that probably need to be patched, and then user-based vulnerabilities as well. And then we give your customer a risk score. And then we help you, if you drill into each of those risks, to reduce the risk by changing configurations or patching or giving your users some training regarding their passwords or regarding risky browsing behavior, et cetera, et cetera. Again, all of this is built into Bitdefender Gravity Zone, and you can drill in. We help you to prioritize these risks. So we label them as high, medium, and low so that you can focus on the high-level risk first to lower the overall risk posture in your customer's environment. What are we talking about? We're basically talking about Bitdefender helps you to close the doors of your car, roll up your windows, and lock the doors before you go into the store. That is what security hardening is about. That is what is built into every Bitdefender deployment. Now let's talk about the automated prevention layer, okay? So this is, again, detection and protection capabilities that are built into Bitdefender. And one of the things you'll notice if you do any research about Bitdefender and the rest of the industry is we have the best, bar none, prevention layer of security. Why do I say this? Because we win all of the third-party tests when they put us up against everybody else. And there's some reasons why architecturally we win. One, because we have more security controls, more automated security controls than any other product in the industry. So we've got over 30 plus security controls that are built into our prevention layer. Most products in this space probably have 18 to 20. So we just have more automated security controls that are built into our product that help defend your environment in an automated way as opposed to our competition. I'm going to highlight just two of these security controls. Remember, we have over 30 of them, but I'm going to talk about 2 of them because I get a lot of questions about what these technologies actually do in your environment. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is what we call hyperdetect. Hyperdetect is basically tunable machine learning. So think about this in this way. In most environments, you have the ability, if you've got a machine learning or a next-gen antivirus, anti-malware software, you have the ability to turn up the aggressiveness or dial the aggressiveness down. So you can become aggressive, or you can be normal, or you can be permissive. Now, the challenge with being aggressive, or the benefit of being aggressive, is you're able to detect a lot of things. Not a lot of things, not a lot of threats are able to bypass that aggressive machine learning posture. The downside of that, becoming more aggressive, is that you get a lot of false positives and you flood your human resources, your people resources, with just alerts, okay? Think about this. I'll go back to my car analogy. Think about if you've got an alarm system on your car, that every piece of dust in your car, or every fly, or every gnat, turns on your car alarm. Your car alarm would be going off all the time, okay? And what happens is, from a human perspective, we start to tune that out. So Bitdefender realized this early on because we're a really early adopter of machine learning. And so we developed a technology called Hyperdetect. Hyperdetect allows you to be aggressive in the threat vectors that you want to be aggressive in. So for example, I want to be very aggressive when it comes to ransomware. I don't want ransomware in my environment, but in the other threat vectors, I can leave my machine learning at normal so that I can be very aggressive when it comes to ransomware, but I limit the false positives in every other threat vector. Why is this really important? Because it helps you to maximize the detection and protection capabilities in the specific area that you really require it. So if you're a modern day small medium business, or you're helping to manage those environments, you can basically turn Bitdefender on high alert for ransomware and then leave everything else as normal, and you reduce your false positives while still being able to be aggressive. If you manage accounts, let's say in the healthcare industry that's being targeted right now, you can turn up the aggressiveness for just the targeted attacks. Again, really, really effective technology that's built right into Bitdefender. It gives you the ability as an administrator by policy to tune our machine learning area in a very granular way, okay? Now, let's talk about the second area, which is sandboxing. Sandboxing is basically the ability to automatically detonate objects, okay, in the Bitdefender cloud environment, okay? So what does this help you to do? Again, this is automated security control. It allows Bitdefender to take an unknown object. Think of this as the gray area of security. So you've got known good, you've got known malicious, and then you have this big gray area. What does the technology enable? How does a technology respond in that gray area? Sandboxing allows Bitdefender or any other technology to determine the exact nature of that object by detonating it away from your customer's environment. And then it can be analyzed and then determine whether that object is malicious or benign and take corrective action if needed. This is also built into Bitdefender. So what does this do? This allows Bitdefender to analyze very complex and possibly unknown packers within an object and do it in a systematic way. So we allow Bitdefender to detonate that object, and then we allow Bitdefender to analyze the nature of that object and then determine the corrective course of action if needed. So this is really, really critical when it comes to security, because it removes a lot of the gray area. And again, this is built right into Bitdefender. So let's talk about the third area of security now, and that is the detection and response. And this is where you get the EDR, XDR, MDR. All the DRs in those three acronyms are all detection and response. So I want you to think humans. This is where the humans live in the security stack, and Bitdefender addresses this particular area. And I talked about earlier, humans need two things. They need the ability to visualize, number one, and then they need the ability to respond to that threat wherever that threat lives, okay? So let's look at how Bitdefender addresses the detection and response area. All right, EDR and XDR. I'm going to define those terms for you. EDR is endpoint detection and response. So think about a desktop, a laptop, a server, a VDI instance, a virtual server. This type of object is what we consider EDR, endpoint detection and response. XDR is beyond the endpoint. So it could be Microsoft 365. It could be G Suite. It could be cloud. In other words, AWS, Azure, GCP, or it could be the network. It could be what is happening from a network telemetry perspective. And so Bitdefender has both of these technologies built in, but I want you to understand that this is not just for visualization. So on your screen, what you're looking at is Bitdefender's correlation engine combined with modern day AI. So we run our telemetry through our very advanced AI engine. Think of this as benign AI. You know, the industry right now is talking about malicious AI. I'm giving you an example that's built into Bitdefender of benign AI. It's actually helpful AI because we take threats from multiple different objects. So on your screen, I'm looking at endpoints, servers, identity, as well as exfiltration of files. And then we break it down for you as an administrator in readable English. This is what is happening in your environment. And over on the right-hand side, you see Bitdefender will recommend, this is our AI engine, we recommend the following actions for you to take. We recommend that you block a user. We recommend that you isolate these hosts. We recommend that you block this IP address. Again, this is Bitdefender's AI engine guiding your technicians to be able to respond to an event that has bypassed all of this automated security controls. Really, really powerful technology that Bitdefender gives to you that's built right into our software. We give you correlated visibility. So if you're a visual guy like me, we give this same view in a visualization. So we say the event started here, it went to this object next, then it moved to this object next. And I want you to notice here that we're talking about this incident crosses endpoints, it crosses identity, it crosses email. And in each one of these steps, you can click on an object and take a responsive action. So if you need to kill an email out of Office 365, You can click on the email, click kill, and we will delete it right out of Office 365 for you. Or if you need to isolate a host, you click on that host and you click isolate. So again, what are we doing? We are reducing the time to respond for your human resources. We give you a breakdown, a timeline, a complete visualization of what you need to do, what is happening, and then give you responsive actions to take. We give you pre and post compromise attack forensics. So in other words, if you need to do a root cause, you can do that using our tool. We'll give you a timeline, very powerful type technology that's built right into our platform. Now, here's what's really interesting about EDR, XDR, and that I find in our industry. There's a lot of what I would call, I don't want to say misinformation, but our industry seems to highlight some things that are not necessarily as helpful as you might think. So maybe you're today evaluating an EDR or XDR tool set, and most of the industry is going to talk about, like it is here, on this MITRE attack evaluation where they stacked Bitdefender, our technology, up against a bunch of different other EDR tools. And a lot of these third-party tests give you what they call detection rates, okay? Detections are good, don't get me wrong, and Bitdefender does really well in the detection area. But as a security professional, here's what I'm interested in. If you notice highlighted in blue down there, it says Bitdefender stands out in the results for enabling efficient security operations. What do we mean by that? And reducing alert fatigue by providing, here's the keyword that I suggest that you look at when you're looking at one of these tools. It says by providing analytic insights for 96% of all detections. Now, what do we mean by an analytic insight? And I want you to think about the fact that we do this for 96% of all detections. Most of the products on this list, their analytic insights is about less than 50%. So between 40, well, maybe 30 something to 50%. Bitdefender is 96%. Now, what do we mean by this? Detections versus analytic insight. So I want you to imagine yourself as a security analyst looking at an EDR tool, and you've got a bunch of detections. What you are really looking at on the screen is a gray dot in the field. And what those tools require you to do at this point is to figure out what the gray dots are, okay? That is what a detection is, okay, in this tool. An analytic insight, on the other hand, is this picture. What am I looking at? And I want you to think about this. MITRE says that Bitdefender shows your security analyst the picture on the right for 96% of all of our detections. In other words, what am I actually looking at? And remember, I talked about in this particular area of the security architecture, time matters. The ability to see if something is malicious or benign and doing it in a really quick and doing that very quickly is extremely important, because all of your automation layer has been bypassed. Now you need humans to take action. I would want my humans looking at the picture on the right, which is what the industry calls analytic insights, rather than the picture on the left and trying to figure out what that actually is. So Bitdefender shows your techs for 96% of all of our detections, the picture on the right. What are they actually looking at? It takes all the guesswork out of this particular part of your architecture. Now, what if you're saying, hey, I don't want my security techs involved at this at all? This is where Bitdefender can help you as well. If you want to outsource the detection and response layer to Bitdefender, you can do that. We call this MDR Foundations. This is the Bitdefender Security Operations Center. We will analyze the threats in your customer's environment, and we will take action on your behalf. It is using best-in-class technology and coupling that with our security threat hunters and our technicians that do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and you can turn over that security response to Bitdefender. It is very, very simple to onboard this service. If you're on Bitdefender today, it's literally a tick box in a licensing, and you can onboard onto our service within minutes, okay? This is what it looks like in the UI. If you're familiar with Bitdefender Gravity Zone, if you want to turn on Security Operations Center services that we call MDR Foundations, you go into the licensing for your customer. Again, you control this. You tick the box that says Manage Detection Response. It'll automatically tick the box Foundations. You click Save, and within minutes, you are onboarded onto our service. You'll get an email that's generated to you as a managed service provider. It'll say, welcome to MDR. Your customer's environment is already being protected. I would highly recommend you log into our portal. This is our MDR portal, and you're going to do two things. You're going to set up emergency contacts. In other words, who does Bitdefender call if we respond to an incident? And secondly, you're going to set up pre-approved actions. In other words, you're going to tell Bitdefender what actions we are pre-authorized to take on your customer's behalf. Again, we don't have to call you, wait for you to respond before we take actions. You tell us these are the actions you are to take on my behalf, Bitdefender, and then we've got 30 minutes to call you to tell you the actions that we have already taken. Okay? Really, really powerful story here. And I'll just close with this and why this is important. So every attack in your customer's environment follows the same pattern over and over and over again. And the better you understand this, the better you can develop your own security architecture to combat this. So the first thing that happens in your customer's environments, a criminal organization or someone out there that has malicious intent is going to contact your customer's environment. We call that first contact, okay? This is either they have physical access or they send an email, or they have one of the users log into a malicious website, or they get at it through an anonymous guest account. However they get in, they make first contact. The second thing that happens is something is executed, whether that's in memory, whether that's a script, whether that's an executable, something is executed in the environment, okay? Now, from there, the criminal is going to try to obfuscate themselves. They're going to try to move laterally. They're going to try to persist on the system. They're going to hide for a little while. And then once they've done that, then what they're going to do is start the malicious activity, okay? This is where most people focus all of their security attention is on the malicious activity. They want to prevent ransomware, or they want to prevent a bot, or they want to prevent the exfiltration of data. They want to basically put all of their eggs in the malicious into stopping malicious activity. I'm going to suggest to you that that is the wrong approach to security. When you look at your security architecture, you want to look at preventing all of these phases of attacks. And for those of you that are security professionals, I understand there are subsets to these phases, but I'm simplifying this, boiling it down to basically 4 steps. Okay. Now, let's look at what Bitdefender does. Okay. Bitdefender has multiple automated security controls across the entire threat vector. All of these phases of attack have multiple automated security controls that are built into our product. Okay. And they all work in conjunction with each other because they're all integrated. Okay. They're integrated technology-wise, they're integrated from a machine learning and AI phase. All of our technologies, all 30 plus of them that cover this entire threat, are all integrated into a single product. Now, with Bitdefender, you also get help to harden your environment against that first contact. So wouldn't it be nice to close some of the ways that criminals get into your organizations and wreak havoc? Bitdefender helps you to do that. I talked about hardening and I talked about analyzing risk. We help you to do that. It's built into our platform. And then if it bypasses all of those security controls, we give you the ability to detect and respond to those threats from a human perspective. And if you want to outsource that humans to somebody else, you can do that. You can outsource that activity to Bitdefender. Again, this is called Gravity Zone. And this is putting your security on literally autopilot. If you deploy our software and you allow Bitdefender to perform security operations for you, you are literally putting your customer on autopilot with the best technology in the industry and the best security operations center in the industry, all backed by Bitdefender. We are the most comprehensive MSP endpoint security solution in the globe. We're API generated or API complete RESTful API integrations can be taken place. One of them is with SuperOps AI. We're grateful for their partnership. I think they're going to talk to you a little bit about their particular platform. You're able to grow your revenue stream within your customer base by expanding into different layers of our security offering using SuperOps AI. So I appreciate your time. Thanks so much. I'll go ahead and hand it over.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was a very comprehensive presentation on all of the powerful and robust capabilities that Bitdefender has to offer for everybody out there to secure their client networks for MSPs worldwide. So I just want to take over from Michael here and talk about where we pick it up from the operational side of things, from how you basically deploy it and maintain it and keep it running on autopilot while you have nothing to worry about on your side of things, right? So I'm just going to start with a couple of slides on what exactly SuperOps is for the new folks attending a SuperOps webinar for the first time. I'm going to keep my session short in the interest of time. So I'm just going to give you very brief high-level overviews on everything we're talking about, and we can get to the meat of this presentation right away. So again, so SuperOps is an automation-first PSA RMM platform, which is basically built on the cloud and unified in the truest sense of the word. What we do is we basically bring together the best parts of the PSA and RMM together and make them complement each other in ways that would basically make the technician and admin's life much, much easier and make the platform a joy to use, and basically transform their operations from the legacy ways of doing it in siloed, disjointed ways onto modern, collaborative, and thoughtful ways. So we basically bring together a whole suite of services from your service desk back to your invoicing, your billing, your client management, project management, all of those things, and we combine it with the core of your operational processes, which basically involve monitoring all of your assets, your policies, managing your remote access sessions and all of that, and basically bringing together a holistic experience of managing your clients' endpoints and giving them exceptional levels of service. So what we do want to talk about is basically the entire journey of like taking care of your client cybersecurity from end to end. And that basically starts from home, which is basically us, right? So we want to talk about all of the rigorous standards that we have in place to make sure that the platform is as secure as ever, so that you can basically go and manage your clients' data and SuperOps with absolute confidence. So we do set a high bar of rigorous practices in terms of setting up infrastructure onto our data policies and everything. So we do have a SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. We have a HIPAA compliance for all of our folks operating in the healthcare sector, where they can confidently manage any sensitive healthcare information that their clients might have in the healthcare industry. And we're also GDPR ready, where we're GDPR compliant and make sure that we follow all of the regulations that stringent regulations that GDPR has put in place, so that our customers in EU can also work in peace while using SuperOps. So again, cybersecurity does start at home. It starts with us. So from there, we're going to talk about how we basically enable and empower MSPs like you to do the same for your own business, right? So we do have a series of strong security practices in place, so that you're able to lock down and basically harden your own security, like Michael talked about, where you're able to control the access that people have onto your platform, be it from any sort of malicious attacks from the outside, by just putting in these security measures in place, coming back to them at a on a routine basis, and making sure that things are refreshed. You're able to ensure that your platform is secure, and you're basically cutting out any margin for unauthorized access onto the platform. And these are some of the features that we have in place, where you're able to basically, if you have a distributed workforce across the country, what you can do is basically shortlist a set of IP addresses and make sure that you have people logging in from just those IP ranges as well. And you have session timeouts, where you're able to basically configure how long they're able to access the platform for and how soon they need to log in again. And you can basically choose different sets of custom policies. Just a second, I'm just going to share my screen again. Please let me know if you can see it.
I can see it.
Oh, perfect. One second. Okay, I'm just going to share a new screen again, so you're able to see the action right within the platform. So, all right, so I'm just going to walk you through some of the security practices that we have in place as well. So, for example, if you're talking about, say, a session settings, you can basically control how long idle sessions are allowed to last for, or if you want to talk about, say, technician logins, you can basically set different levels of password policies based on how stringent you want these policies to be, whether you want these policies to be high intensity and you want these policies to be refreshed on a very short time period, and you want to make sure that your policies are always up to date passwords. So we do have an array of all of these different configurations to make sure that you're able to secure your platform. And again, one second, I'm just moving back to my slides. I do have only just a couple more slides, so I do appreciate your patience on this, folks. All right, so again, so I think from here, we're just going to be talking about how we're basically going to be leveraging a lot of the features that we have along with Bitdefender to basically set your client security on autopilot as well. Because when you do a lot of your cybersecurity practices manually, there always tends to be a margin for error, and automating is always the best way to ensure that you're basically eliminating that small percentage of manual error that usually creeps in. So what we're going to talk about is basically going into a couple of very important things when it comes to client security, right? And it starts always like patch management, because everybody really it's no surprise to the MSP industry with the importance that we place on patch management, because one of the first things everybody evaluates in an RMM tool is basically how good is the patching and how much work does it really save me. So that's basically one of the first things that we're going to be talking about, and how SuperOps makes it easier for anybody using the platform to keep their clients secure, right? So I hope you folks can see my screen. So I'm just going to take you through how we basically manage our patching, and how we basically automate a lot of that grunt work so that you don't have to basically think about how patching is managed on a client or a site, or even on an asset level, right? So what we do is we basically automate all of these things using policies. And you can basically choose to either have it on a hierarchical level if you're basically giving a blanket level policy on how you want these patches to be managed, or you can also choose to go the granular route where you can basically create separate create groups of assets and add your own nuance to how you want these individual groups of assets to be monitored and what sort of policies that need to be applied. So for example, if I am going into the patch management section, I can basically create all of these different custom patch management schedules, and I also have an approval matrix that basically takes care of all of the approval procedures for me. So for example, if it is a very critical update that regards to a new security vulnerability on the block, and this really is something that cannot wait to be rolled out to your clients, what you can do is you can have these important critical updates approved automatically, while say some of the less important patches like a driver update that's completely optional can be on a manual approval basis. Or if you want to take some time to test it out and make sure that everything is stable before you roll it out to your client devices, you can always choose to defer it for another 7 days, or whatever time you choose to be on right from the patch management schedule. So what this does is basically helps you put the entire patching module of it in autopilot and make sure that you are able to focus your attention on things that matter. So and this also applies exactly to software management as well, primarily because third-party software is also a very important section where you need to be able to have complete control into how you want all of the software that's installed on the client's device to be up to date. So what you can do is basically have a set of different software bundles installed on a client devices, and if they already have certain software installed on an asset, you can also choose to update them through SuperOps as well. So what this leaves us with is basically the antivirus section, right? So here's where Bitdefender basically comes into place. So what we do is basically have Bitdefender as an antivirus integration connected through the marketplace, where the configuration process in itself is super easy, where you have just two or three steps in total, where you have to add the API access URL and the API access key that you have from your Bitdefender Gravity Zone account, which you have to include here in your marketplace account. And again, all you have to do from there is basically import all of your clients and map them from superops.ai to Bitdefender. So you have your client bases in sync between both tools, so that you know exactly what packages from Bitdefender that you need mapped onto your clients in SuperOps. So once you have that information mapped, all you can do is basically go back to your policies, and from there you'll be able to select the policies that select the asset policy that it has to apply to, and all you have to do is basically select Bitdefender. So whenever you add clients here, any map clients added here will take precedence, and whatever package you choose here will apply to all of the assets that are falling under this client. So for example, how this will look like on a temporary basis is, for example, if I'm opening any asset, again, please, again, this is a very rough example of what it might look like, is basically you'll have Bitdefender noted down here, and you'll be able to basically manage all of these, all of the antivirus and threat levels right from within the asset screen here. So why this is very important is because all of the process that you see the minute the integration is activated is completely automatic. What it does is basically it takes the Bitdefender installer and it deploys it through the asset, through the SuperOps agent onto all of the assets that fall under this policy. So what it does is basically, all it requires from you is just a little bit of configuration, and everything else is taken care of by the platform. And again, this is just the beginning where we're planning on building on this with a whole lot of reporting where you're able to see all of the progress that you've made and all of the updates that you've had over the last 30 days. And again, you can also keep an eye on all of the alerts that you get by email passing, where all you have to do is just pass off alert information through an email with just some field names and values, like the table you see here. All you have to do is send these two fields as a pair, and you'll be able to convert all of the alerts that you're sending in from your Bitdefender account, antivirus account, as tickets in SuperOps. So again, you're able to also monitor all of the alerts that you get in, and you're also able to proactively target any of the antivirus threats that you see here. And again, this is just the beginning. As I said, we have a whole lot of things that we have planned on building to basically strengthen our antivirus collaboration with Bitdefender. So again, I am, in the interest of time, I do realize that I've gone a couple of minutes over the deadline. So if you folks have any questions, please do leave them in the Q&A section. And I also do have a quick question for the folks who are still on the call right now. So again, if you folks did like what you see, I just wanted to know if you folks would be interested in learning more about SuperOps or Bitdefender. So if you folks do see a poll on your screen, please do respond. I just want to know what your thoughts on, and if you would like for us to get in touch with you, please do let us know. I'm just going to give this a couple of seconds for people to respond, and then we'll just move on to the Q&A.
Yeah, let's see if there's Q&A. This will be interesting.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too.
Yeah. This will be great.
And in the meantime, folks, if you do have any questions for the people who have answered the polls, please do engage our Q&A section. I think we'll have like a few minutes to spare for to answer any of the questions you might have. So we have both Michael and Nathaniel on the Q&A panel on the Bitdefender end, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding SuperOps. So please do feel free to ask any sort of questions on the Q&A. And if we do, and also you can also always feel free to send us a message if you have any questions that you'd like to ask us in private. I'd be more than happy to answer. And I'm sure all of you folks have my email as well, so please feel free.
There was a question about how to best test EDR with the malware. How would you recommend testing EDR, Mike?
Well, if you've got a test environment, I would just launch whatever threats you want against the devices. Make sure you have EDR turned on in the policy and for those devices that you want to launch the threat at, and you'll see it those threats real time in the EDR console. So
yeah, and then the know before. There's a know before ransom sim that we recommend that you can use to test the EDR with.
Absolutely.
As fake malware that we recommend.
Yeah. Yep.
Would a second question is, would we be able to get hands-on demo of Bitdefender? I think we do that with the SuperOps team. We work with them to provide demos, so we can definitely make sure that we get you a demo of the Bitdefender and how it integrates together. So make sure we'll follow up with you, Steve.
Yep.
Where do we get the threat? Jason, can you kind of clarify your question a little bit more? As far as like using the sandbox analyzer that's built into our technology, or trying to understand a little bit more about your question there in regards to EDR, or mention a SIM.
Okay. Yeah, good question. So regarding SIM, Bitdefender doesn't have a SIM tool. because we're asset-based security. I will say that our security operations center does utilize a SIM, and also Bitdefender can integrate with SIMs as well. So in the policy of Bitdefender, you'll see something called security telemetry, and that is the section of the policy where you can integrate Bitdefender technology into that SIM, so you can have the Bitdefender clients forwarding events over to a SIM if you've got one deployed in your customer's environment. Good question.
And I posted a link to the free tools for KnowBe4. Oh, I just responded, I think, to him directly by accident. But there is a URL where you can download all the free tools that KnowBe4 has, and they're a great set to kind of test and kind of, you know, help validate our solution. It's www.knowbe4.com/free-IT-security-tools.
All right, so I think that does wrap up the questions that we have so far. All right, so okay then, I think it's a wrap for today's session. Okay, just a second. 1 second. Okay, so maybe I think it might be beneficial for us to add it on chat. Just a second. I think somebody just wants you to type the chat on, type the link on chat. Maybe that'd be a little more helpful.
Yeah, perfect.
Thought I sent it to everybody, but I don't know.
I
might have sent
happens to the best of us.
privately by accident, the original one.
All right, perfect. All right, folks. I hope you folks did get the link for the thing, and I think we can wrap up the session right now. If we do have any more questions, feel free to just email Nathaniel or me. We'd be more than happy to answer any more questions you might have. So we are kind of stretching the time we have for the session. So I think we'll wrap it up here. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a power-packed 70 minutes of cybersecurity conversation. So, and Michael, thank you so much for your detailed talk on how Bitdefender basically manages cybersecurity from end to end. It's been a great time having you folks. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
have a great day, everybody. Okay,
it's been a pleasure, folks. All right, folks. Good night.